Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram here, and we've got another show for you with analysis, of course, of the major indexes and stocks to watch. Joining me to break it all down is Justin Nielsen, my colleague and host of the Investing with IBD podcast. Hey there, Justin.
How are you, Allie?
Doing good, doing
Since you
good.
mentioned the podcast, just as a reminder, we're doing it on a different day this week. We're doing it right after the show. So for those of you that really like your YouTube, you can just, meet us over
Stay
there.
on. Yeah. Meet you over there soon. Speaking of, we will get right to it for this quick show. Another day of small cap leadership, Justin. And we'll go ahead and share the screens here, starting with a look at the major indexes. And we're going to take a look at Toll Brothers, TJX, and Chipotle in addition to the indexes here. But the NASDAQ up about 0.3% on the day. Same for the S&P 500. Meanwhile, the Dow was up about 1% and small caps led the way again here today, Justin, with the Russell 2000 up another 1.6%. Very impressive.
Yeah, a very different look from the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, the ones that are heavily weighted towards those mega caps, those trillion-dollar companies, which for most of the last 2 years, that's been where it's been at, right? Is those big companies kind of masking some of the weakness underneath. But when you look at, the indexes today, NASDAQ and S&P 500 well off their highs. It was a gap up at the open, but those really kind of closed a little bit poorly, definitely in the lower part of their ranges. And the Russell 2000, and let's go ahead and throw the mid caps in there as well.
Yeah.
The S&P 400 mid cap index, or MDY, if you prefer the ETF. Those looking much stronger. And then, as you mentioned, even the Dow Jones Industrial Average, that was up a full percent. So a lot of strength there as well. And we've been mentioning for a while here how RSP, the equal weighted S&P 500, has been looking stronger. And even though that did close off of its highs, it was still a decent gain at 0.8%, and didn't come anywhere near filling in that gap up from today.
Yeah, just, shaking everyone out after the election just to start ripping higher after that. Of course, that's when it works, right? When you get that big shakeout.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't hand this money to you on a silver platter. They're going to make you work for it.
Office was. No. So let's talk about some areas of focus underneath the surface, Justin. I think the best group award today goes to the home builders.
Yeah, and this is something that very early on, IBD Live, you did a great job, Allie, and you said, okay, before we go too far,
stay here.
let's check these out, because they were looking strong, and they only got stronger as the day unfolded. So if you go to an intraday chart on here, you can kind of see how XHB, as we noted, it started strong and just got stronger, and then tapered off, just basically flattened out for the rest of the day. So there was plenty of time to get into some of these names. And again, it was pretty broad based, whether you were looking at some of the home builders. We're going to look at Toll. We had TMHC get added to leaderboard today, but there were also, Home Depot was looking strong. There was a lot of different, or let's even look at RH, a home furnisher that was looking strong today. So there was a lot of strength in this area. And remember, XHB and ITB aren't just your home builders themselves. It's a lot of these related areas that are also in those ETFs. So it's important that you kind of understand what you're getting into if you go the ETF route.
Yeah, exactly. I've played nail in the past when we've had turns, but when you're hosting IBD Live, you kind of don't get to buy the leveraged ETF at the open.
I appreciate you hosting, because I did buy this one myself today.
There you go. Good. One of us got it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll share the profits. I'll take you out to dinner.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Next time I'm in LA. All right. A couple of other ETFs we want to look at, and then we'll circle back to a home builder. But retail, also a great performance today with XRT up 3.7%. This was another area that we focused on IBD Live this morning. XLF continuing to add to the gains, not nearly in the same way as builders and retail today, but still up another 0.6%, continuing this strong move. And gold down 3% after a strong week last week. Of course, we have TBT. I want to add this one in here as well. This is a clear change here, Justin, for
Yeah, and again, it
the
makes
bond
sense.
market.
The home builders were looking so good when the TBT
Yeah.
was looking so poor. So whether you're looking at the the 20-year, and remember, when we look at TBT, we're really kind of getting a sense of the Treasury yield because TBT is short the bonds, and
Mhm.
bonds and the
Yep.
yields go in opposite directions. So
Yep.
TNX is again a way to look at the yields. And look, we had a big run here since September, and we have had some pretty dramatic pullbacks. Just a couple weeks ago, that was a pretty dramatic pullback. A couple weeks before that, a pretty dramatic pullback. So I think it's too early to declare victory and say, oh, the 10-year yield is coming down. But this was definitely a big shift,
Yeah.
a big drop, and you saw that reflected in a lot of home builders as well as the retail.
Yeah.
I think a lot of consumer oriented
Mhm.
areas were looking strong. XLY, for instance, is another area that was looking a little strong today. We added this to Swing Trader. Consumer discretionary. So I think a lot about the consumer and health of the economy was the focus.
Yeah. Okay. Let's now take a look at TOL. This is Toll Brothers, not only with a breakout today, but also an RS line blue dot by the end of the day. A powerful move above 160. The gain today, 6.5% in some volume, Justin.
Yeah. So again, another one where if you acted fast, and you could certainly get into some of these out on these gap ups, and they just again got stronger as the day unfolded. But you had a lot to choose from. So again, whether you went through an ETF route, which is what I did. Again, we were on the show, so that was a little bit easier than trying to figure out which one is the
Yeah.
winner. A little bit later on in the day, as I mentioned, leaderboard added TMHC, which is Taylor Morrison. KBH looked good. So again, it wasn't just like, oh, this one is doing something different. This was a
Right.
group move. And so it's important to kind of understand that. But what
Mhm.
you can do, as you pointed out, Allie, look, that blue dot, that relative strength line at highs, that kind of separates some of the winners from the losers. We also looked at NVR this morning, and the relative strength line on NVR didn't look nearly as strong. So that's something where that relative strength line can really, if you're going to go with
Mhm.
individual stocks, that can really kind of shift you in the right spots.
Yeah, because we've just seen time and again how it really does work.
Mhm.
Okay, let's next go to TJX because retail, another bright spot here, and TJX adding to its gains last week. We got a reversal at the 21-day line. Today, the gain 2.7%. Earned earnings are out of the way here.
Yeah. So earnings are out of the way on this one, but you still we still have earnings coming out on some of its competitors. For example, Burlington, that's coming out. So look, we've got a tale of two different areas. You've got Target, which really got slammed on its earnings report, but then on the other hand, you've got Walmart that's been looking really strong. So here again, I think you have to really kind of take a look. You could go with that broad-based ETF XRT, and we did some analysis on IBD Live this morning, kind of looking at it was a little bit more broad-based. It wasn't just one or two retailers; it was a lot of them that were pushing this higher today. But when you're making that decision, okay, am I going to go with an ETF or with an individual stock? I think you really want to again lean on that relative strength, and the relative strength on this one, the relative strength line isn't at highs, even though TJX is at price highs. So that is one flaw, but it's still very strong. So I think this one is still worth watching. You had Ollie's. This was one that we were talking about with David Ryan. I do have a position in this myself that kind of came back to the forefront. So there's a lot of names in this area that are worth watching. And again, you can kind of sometimes get those dual ones. I mentioned RH earlier. That's kind of got your home
Yeah.
builder, home furnishing and your retail. What is it? Temper Sealy, TPX. That's another one that was looking strong. So again, a lot of that overlap in areas where people might be furnishing their homes, as well as kind of that consumer
Right.
side looking strong.
Yeah, really good point there. Okay, let's round things out with a look at Chipotle because we know you got to get on over to the podcast, Justin. But a breakout on Friday for Chipotle. So this is in the retail restaurant area. And Chipotle looking like it's starting to make more of a comeback here after a really tough summer for the stock.
Yeah. So if you go to the weekly chart on this one, you can see that there were a lot of tight areas, and our pattern recognition will kind of point these out for you with these little blue shaded areas. And generally, tight areas are good, although sometimes our boss, chief content officer Chris Guess, will say, some of these tight areas, oh, it's a stair stepper, it's too slow, it's not going to move that much. But after taking quite a break, and again, you saw that in the relative strength. And look, most of us have been kind of focused on other restaurants like, Kava or Sweet Greens. I do have a position in Kava. But now that you've got Chipotle breaking out, it might be worth taking another look at this, especially when we see that relative strength line get back above moving average lines. So that's something that we have as a feature that can kind of tell you, okay, there's something, potentially changing here. And with such a strong day in the markets, I think it's worth kind of recognizing that under the surface, especially when you see the Nasdaq and S&P 500 falter a little bit, whereas the small caps and mid caps were looking very different,
Right.
it's important to be kind of aware of sector rotation. And these moving average lines on your relative strength line can be one of those things that helps alert you to something that may have been out of favor. This has been basing while a lot of these stocks have been running, but maybe this is ready to go now. So I think one of the homework things we're going to leave for folks is to go through your charts and really pay attention to those stocks that might be just having their relative strength lines turn,
Mm.
because those might be the opportunities for another leg up in different areas. So it's like we've got some fresh meat, some fresh blood out there.
Well said, Justin. All right, super quick preview of the podcast today, which again, reminder for those just now joining the stream, our weekly podcast is happening today, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, with Jay Woods. Give us a sneak peek, Justin.
Yeah, Jay Woods has decades of experience as a floor trader. He's really seen a lot of sentiment back in the day when you used to get that sentiment from just getting the feel of the crowd on the floor of the New York Stock
Mm.
Exchange. So he's going to bring some of that to bear. And we're also going to do a little bit of analysis of the 2017 market. Hey, we've got a second Trump administration getting ready. Let's take a look at some of the stuff that happened the first time around and see if there's any lessons we can learn from that or ways that we can prepare. So between sentiment and some of that, analysis of previous administration, I think we're going to have a great
Yeah.
time.
Oh, sounds great. And sentiment, as the kids these days would say, the vibes.
There we go. Okay.
The
Thanks
vibes.
for giving me the lingo.
All right. Well, thanks, Justin. Looking forward to that. Have a good show.
Okay. Thank you.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. That is it from us for today. Check out the podcast, like, subscribe, comment. Justin, he looks at that live comment section during the podcast, so be sure to engage. We know we have the best audience around, and we thank you for all of your interaction for each and every show that we do. So that's it for today, and the team will see you back here tomorrow on IBD Live, first thing in the morning, and then after the close as always. So we will see you then.